Hi, more videos. Let's do them. Glad you're here. And I'm just going to warn you right now up front, right off the top of the bat. This is going to be a long video. I figured screw it. Why not? This is a fascinating album for more reasons than just the music, to me at least. Maybe you guys won't agree, but I hope you do. I hope you stick through the whole video. I'm sure most of you won't. Trust me, I look at my analytics a couple times a week, and I know that the vast majority of you will not sit through this whole video. But I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway. But before I start, I just wanted to mention that this is my 200th video, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this album, because I feel like it's epic and I have a lot to say about it, and I might as well make an epic video in length. And I don't know that it will be much longer than any of my other videos. I've been trying to shorten the length, but sometimes I just have so much to say about it that my videos creep up over the half an hour mark. I've actually been trying to keep them between 10 and 15 minutes, but it just never happens. Whatever, it is what it is. I don't worry about it, and you guys don't watch them. So all is fair in love and war. But this is my 200th video. I've been doing this channel for almost exactly 4 years. My first video was in August of 2020. And this is my 200th video. So in 4 years, that's 50 videos a year on average. I guess I've been pumping them out for what, almost a week? One per week on average. That's a little skewed because last summer I did a lot of videos. It was kind of my goal to do 100 videos last summer. And I did do that. So I think, again, I've been looking at my analytics lately and people just aren't watching as often, which is totally fair. I think people subscribe to things because they're super interested in a channel, but that interest wanes, and then they go away after a while, and then they find something else, and then their interest in that wanes. And I think last year too, I attracted the industrial audience, and I veered away from that, and that was purposeful because I think the industrial audience all finding me was an accident. I didn't mean that. I didn't mean for that to happen. I appreciate it, but industrial is far from being my favorite type of music. So I kind of accidentally stumbled upon the industrial audience, and I think they've all kind of withered away at this point because I haven't really been talking about industrial for a long time. But at any rate, yeah, this is my 200th video. So thank you. I try to thank everybody at least 4 or 5 times a year. I do appreciate all of your time. I know that I say things that people don't always agree with, and that's totally fair. I appreciate your time all the same. In any case, I appreciate every one of you taking your time, because time is the most precious commodity. And that's what you guys give me. And I really appreciate that. I try to give you my time and you give me your time in exchange, and that means a lot to me. So thank you. I don't think I'll be doing as many videos going into the future because, yeah, I guess I had hoped to have a little more subscribers by now, and I just don't. So that's my fault, you know. But I look at things that other YouTubers are doing, and I see the things that are making them successful, and I'm just not interested in doing that. And what I mean by that is people doing 10-minute videos and throwing out genre tags and genre terms and not digging into the details of an album or a movie or whatever it is. I mean, that's how people are successful. They do these little 5-minute quick capsule reviews and then move on to the next thing. And there's just no way you can get an appreciation for anything when you're doing a video under 10 minutes, I don't think. Sometimes maybe, but I think 10 to 15 minutes is a good place to be when you're doing like an album review or something. But that's not really what I do. I try to talk about albums and then the 12 inches that come with the albums and all of that stuff all combined. So I'm not a fan of this quick in and out culture. I don't get it. And I don't care to get it. I think it's why people don't read more books. I think it's why people can't sit through a 2-hour movie. People are completely ADD addled. It's just something that is ingrained into our brains. I think I was born long enough ago where I remember the joys of reading books and taking my time with things. And so I think that's what my channel does. And I think I attract those people who appreciate someone who takes the time to really dig into something. And that's not a lot of people. The vast majority of YouTubers are people who want, 7, 8, 9, 10-minute reviews of albums. They don't care to know anything other than, what does it sound like? Is it techno? Is it pop? Is it mumble rap? Or whatever the fuck it is. They get a couple of genre tags thrown in their face, and then they move on to the next video. It's very disposable. And I'm not interested in that. At any rate, I deeply appreciate those of you who have stuck with me, because there aren't a lot of you. When I started doing this channel 4 years ago, I can't think of one single person that commented then that is still commenting now. And that's another thing. People are commenting less now. So sometimes I wonder if even leaving comments available is worth it. Because when I comment back to the vast majority of you, you guys never respond. And that's fine. But in my mind, it's like a conversation. Like, let's have a conversation. But I find that when people make a comment and I reply to it, I never hear back. So it's like, oh, maybe they're just not, maybe they don't care to hear back. So sometimes I wonder if even having comments enabled is worth it. You guys can tell me, but I hardly hear from anybody on a consistent basis, especially from 4 years ago. I don't hear from anybody then. I'm not even hearing from people that were commenting regularly last year, much less 4 years ago. So people come and go. That's what I've noticed with this channel. I hear from people very intensely for a couple months and then they disappear. Then I hear from them for a few months and then they disappear. So I don't know. People just come and go. Their interest wanes, and I get that. And also, I think people are just sick of looking at my face. I totally understand. Think how I feel. I have to look in the mirror every fucking day. So I understand those of you who might not have any interest in following my channel over the months and years. It totally makes sense to me. But those of you who have stuck through and watch my videos on a regular basis and have an interest, like, there are a few of you that instantly pop into my mind, like Razmix. I really appreciate you, dude. And Razmix is my neighbor. He lives here in the same town I do. You've been there for a couple years, I think, and I appreciate you. Johnny Yeshno, you're another one. You are always commenting, and you've been super supportive. Thanks, dude. I really appreciate you. Ian Emery in the UK. I really appreciate you. I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for always being there and supporting me. I appreciate it. Now, enough of that shit. I've been going on for almost 9 minutes. Let's get to it. Now, this is an album, I know, like, we all know this. We've heard endless dissertations and opinions about it. It goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. I'm not going to go into the music so much, because we all know we love the music. This is one of the greatest albums of all time, one of the best rock and roll albums that's ever been released. This came out in 1989 when I was 17 years old, so us Gen Xers are super attached to this record. This means the world to us. I'm going to try to avoid getting into any musical dissertations about this, because we know this is brilliant. We know why. We've had 35 years to let this album distill into our memories and our brains and our psyches. We don't need any more of that. This is going to be more of a nerdy video about the physical releases, and I'm going to show all of the different versions I have of this album, And I have, what, 4? I have 4 different versions of this record. That's what this means to me. But my God, do rock and roll albums get any better than this? No. This is one of the great albums in history. It keeps living on. It keeps finding a new audience with every generation and every passing year, and it fucking deserves it. This is one of the greatest albums of all time, period. Nothing else to say. If you disagree with that, then you're not listening closely enough. This is just one of the great albums. One of the best. One of the very, 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 very best. There is not a bad... I mean, to have this much music on an album and not have any moment that's not brilliant is insane. The batting average on this record is unrivaled. In fact, when I look at this track listing, I try to think of a favorite song. I mean, it's hard to listen to any one single track from this record. I mean, I guess if I were to choose a favorite, it would be I Am the Resurrection. But I think because the album has such an intense momentum, it just seems to get better. It starts off with I Want to Be Adored, which is one of the best songs ever. And then by the end of it, you're listening to I Am the Resurrection. And you're like, what the fuck just happened? I don't know that I've ever heard anything this great. And I felt that way the first time I heard this. It's still just as fantastic in many different ways than it was the first time I heard it 35 years ago. It's just a brilliant album. There's nothing wrong with it. Everything came together. And this was their debut album. They only put out 2 albums, as we know. This is their debut. For a band to come out of nowhere and just drop this album and have it be... I mean, they didn't come out of nowhere, but you know what I mean. For a debut album, I mean... There's an argument that this is the greatest debut album in history of any band ever. And I know the vast majority of people who will watch this video are already intensely familiar with this album. But if you somehow haven't heard this, you're stumbling upon this and you've heard of this and you know the reputation it has, it's true. All of the great things you've heard and read about this album are absolutely 100% unequivocally true. This is a brilliant album from start to finish, from top to bottom. There's not a bad moment on here. Just one of the greatest albums that's ever been made, period. Now, this is the original United States issue. And one of the things that I find interesting about this album is it got released with different colored lettering here on the cover. This is the first issue I bought back in 1989. It has these black letters. To this day, this is the only one I've ever seen with black letters. There are other colors out there, and I'll get to those. But to my knowledge, this only got released in North America. I think Canada also has a black lettering here, but this is my favorite cover of this album, these black letters. I just think it pops with the rest of the colors here. Also, it's the only version I've seen that actually has the O here printed. All the other editions has this lemon slice as the O, but there's no O inside of it like this. This is the only one I've seen that has that. This was the first and only edition I had when this came out in 1989. And this is my copy. This is the one I bought 35 years ago, man. And boy, do I treasure this record. Here's the inner sleeve. I remember thinking too, when I saw this photo, I was thinking, what are they, flower children or something? Like, is this some hippy-dippy, lovey-dovey bullshit? But when you listen to the record, it's never come across that way to me. To me, it just seems like a bunch of guys making fucking brilliant rock music. That maybe they were influenced by some flower power shit, but I don't hear it in the music really. I mean, maybe a little bit. I mean, this is just absolutely stunningly original rock and roll music, which is really hard to do, as you know. Here are the labels of this initial US issue. Nothing exciting. I will say here in the United States, the first experience I ever had with this record was seeing the video to I Want to Be Adored on MTV. That was my intro. And it's the first song on here. So I Want to Be Adored was the first thing I ever heard from these guys. I'm an American, so I didn't hear Sally Cinnamon. I didn't hear Elephant Stone. I didn't hear any of that shit. I Want to Be Adored was the first single that broke through in the United States. And that single actually got released here in the United States, and I have that, and I'll talk about it. This is it, the first US issue. Now, I will say, I'm going to put this over here. This is, to my knowledge, the first reissue in the United States. You see the gold letters this time? And you see there's a lack of a printed O right there. I got this at the time because it had different lettering. I love this album. I was obsessed with it at the time. And I do very vividly remember this came out about a year later after that black letter cover. Everything else is the same. The inner sleeve, the label, everything else is the same. But to me, it was important to have these gold letters. Call me a dork, call me a nerd, but I'm a huge fan of this album, and I like collecting different types, different versions, different lettering, different colors. This album means a lot to me, and I like to revisit it in different ways, and this kind of thing helps. It's artwork. It's important. This is something, and this is yet another coloring. But I bought this, I don't know, several years ago, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago. I don't know. This is a reissue that they put out on double vinyl. And these are also gold letters, but they're not as gold. You can kind of see a slight difference there, maybe. The lettering here on this reissue is a little lighter gold, I guess. Hard to tell a difference, but I bought this just because I was interested to hear sonic differences, because it's a double record. Now, this did get reissued 30 years ago on 2 records, and I have that one as well, and that's the best pressing that I've ever heard. But this is a pretty decent pressing. This plays at 33 RPM. The other double vinyl issue that came out 30 years ago is on 45 RPM. Again, I'll get to that, but this pressing actually isn't bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. I think the fact that it was pressed on double vinyl definitely helps, although I still think these original US issues sound a little better. I'm guessing maybe this, I don't know how this was reissued and remastered. I don't want to say either way. I don't know if it was analog masters or I think they say it was. Let's see. It says remastered from the original tapes. Okay. So this does sound pretty good. It does sound pretty good. And I think this one's on, yeah, this one came on colored wax. I think that is probably maybe the culprit of it not sounding as good. I think one of them's green and then the other one's gold. Let me see here. I don't even remember where I got this. Yeah, the other one's gold. It comes in a gatefold sleeve. I'm not going to break it out. It just basically has photos of the band performing and some additional photos of the band hanging out and sitting there and staring into the camera, looking blank and confused. I'm not going to show that, but I would recommend picking this up. If you're a huge fan of this album, as I am, you can't have enough versions of this. It's interesting to hear the differences. I do think this is worth picking up, though. For no other reason that there's no other edition that has the album spread across 2 records pressed at 33 RPM. And when I say no other edition, there are different colors of this. This came out on black as well, this press. And I think these came out like a decade ago. But I think it's all basically the same remaster, but it got reissued in different colors and stuff. So I think this is worth picking up, though, if you're a big fan of this album. I mean, again, you can never have enough copies of this record, right? So here is I Want to Be Adored. I think I bought this right around the same time I got that black letter cover album. This is the US edition of I Want to Be Adored. And I had all of the original UK singles of these with the art prints. All of the 12 inches got released with art prints initially. And I ended up selling all those off. I kind of regret it, but not really, because I have a box set here of all the singles that I'll show in a minute. And because that was true, I just didn't see any reason to keep all the individual 12 inches that I had accumulated with the art prints. And someone offered me, I think I sold all of them for like $500 or $600, like 20 years ago. So that was $600 in 20 years ago money. I don't know what they'd sell for today, but I did have the UK issue of this that had an art print with it. I no longer have that. This is the US edition. I ended up hanging on to this one because it has this B-side here, Simone, that I don't have anywhere else. It's not part of the box set that I have. So I thought it was important to hang on to this because of that. But basically, you get edited version of I Want to Be Adored, you get the album version, then you get a couple of B-sides going down. And their B-sides were excellent. Everything surrounding this first album is amazing. I don't think there's much to see with the label here. Yeah, it's basically the same as the album. Silvertone label. I mean, I Want to Be Adored. How classic is that song? How perfect is that to start off an album? I Want to Be Adored. I mean, one of their best tracks, man. And yeah, this is the first time I ever heard this band. Talk about a way to be introduced to a band. God damn. Doesn't get much better than that. Now this, I've already shown this. I did a video on this song and this record alone. I'm not going to go into it in super detail because you can go watch that video if you want. This is Fool's Gold. In my opinion, again, their best track. Fool's Gold. This is the US edition. It's on Gold Wax. I've already done a video on this. I'll link to it if you haven't seen it. You can go watch that. Not going to go into it in super detail, but their best song. Jesus, how great is this song? And this song wasn't even on the first album. It got packaged. They reissued it here in the United States and tacked it on the CD. So I think a lot of people who bought the CD and the cassette versions of this in the United States ended up getting Fool's Gold, and they probably thought it was part of the album. But this was not released on the album initially. This wasn't part of the album. In my opinion, their best song. This is just something random. This was in my Stone Roses collection here. Get some remixes of Fool's Gold. This came out in the late 90s, I want to say. Yeah, 1999. Rabbit in the Moon, I don't know. I was never a big Rabbit in the Moon fan. Kind of a generic trancy guy or group. Was it a group or was it a guy? I don't even know. Never a big fan of Rabbit in the Moon. Groove Rider, okay, all right. Anyway, some 90s remixes of Fool's Gold. I thought I'd show that just for people who were interested. And I'm going to show this really quickly because I think this is worth showing. This is the complete Stone Roses. I like having this because it collects and collates all of their singles, but like the radio edits, the radio remixes. And to my knowledge, I've never seen another compilation that compiles all of the radio edits like this does. And because I have the full versions across all these other pieces of vinyl, as Baba Booey would say, pieces of vinyl, I feel like this is essential to have because, yeah, I just want all the versions. And sometimes the radio versions are every bit as good as the extended versions. So here are the two inner sleeves. This is a nice package. You get some notes. I want to say this came out in the early 2000s or late 90s. When did this come out? Wow, 1995? Oh, okay. Time flies, people. I guess this came out in the mid-90s. The labels are the same on all four sides. I'll just show these two. Wow. Okay, I didn't know I'd had this for this long, but I guess this came out in the mid-90s. I could have swore it came out in the early thousands, but hey, what do I know? This is... Here's the other inner sleeve. There you go. And yeah, that's interesting because Um, had the second album come out already? I don't know. Had Second Coming come out when this came out? I think Second Coming came out in '94, didn't it? This came out in '95. Anyway, they must have released this right around the same time that Second Coming came out. Which, by the way, I like Second Coming. I know people like to shit on that record, but I don't know. I liked it. I mean, it's nowhere. I think the expectations after the first album were so astronomically high that they couldn't do anything but fail with the second album. But I think on its own merit, Second Coming is a pretty damn good album. You can't compare anything to this first album. It's an unfair malignment of anything else because the first album is just it's its own planet and other things are orbiting around it. It's one of those types of albums, you know. Anyway, this is worth having. The Complete Stone Roses, with basically meaning at that point in 1995, maybe prior to Second Coming coming out, that was the Complete Stone Roses in terms of their singles and their edits and things like that. Now, here's the behemoth I want to talk about. This is the vinyl box that came, I'm pretty sure this came out in 1992. Now, this compiles all of the singles from the first album, plus a couple of singles that came out after that first album that I'll get into here that were not on the album. And it reissued the first album on 2 records pressed at 45 RPM. And every version I've ever heard of the first album, on vinyl at least, pales in comparison to this version. I think this is the definitive version that you want to have if you love this record on vinyl. You need to have this version. Now, it's just an opinion, but to my ears, this is the greatest edition I've ever heard, is the version you find in this box set. And I think they reissued the album alone apart from the box set. I'm pretty sure. So you wouldn't have to buy the box set to get it. And basically, this just compiled all of the first album singles. It doesn't have Sally Cinnamon on it. That's super early shit. But here's Elephant Stone. You could break this open. You got your Elephant Stone. Track listing right there. Full Fathom 5 is on here. The Hardest Thing in the World. Again, their B-sides are amazing. This box set didn't have art prints for all of these, but it did have art prints for the singles that were new at the time. It's probably confusing, but I do remember cracking this open and noticing, like, oh, some of them have art prints and some of them don't. I don't know. I remember reading something, too, that when Silvertone was putting this box set together, they took records that they had in their back stock and included them in the box set, but then they also reissued some of the 12 inches and included some of those. And so a lot of these were just like a mismatch of previous issues and new issues. And that seems apparent with my box too, because the sleeve on this one's like a kind of a thick card. You can feel there's a graininess to this. But then on this next one, Made of Stone, this is like a glossy cover. See the gloss there? Elephant Stone is more like a bespoke sleeve, and then you have this one, which is glossy. So you do get this feeling like the Silvertone was just throwing records together. They didn't know which pressing it was and which edition it was. I don't really care because all the music's here, and that's all I care about. Going down. She bangs the drums. What's your favorite Stone Roses single? I've already mentioned that Fool's Gold is mine. It wouldn't surprise me if the vast majority of people would think that is true. How good is this song? She bangs the... I mean, come on. What a fucking brilliant song this is. Look at those B-sides. Come on, the B-sides. How good are these B-sides, man? What the World is Waiting For, which, by the way, this is where Fool's Gold comes from. Fool's Gold was a B-side to this. I mean, I think it was a double A-side, but, you know. How amazing is that to think of. Like Fool's Gold essentially was a B-side. That's how fucking good this band was. They just put out singles and classic songs and threw them on a B-side, and they were like, hey man, we can do this kind of stuff all day long. We'll throw it on there as a B-side. This is One Love. Now, this was not on the first album. Something's Burning. This was the first single they put out after the first album. Or the first single post the first album that was not from the album. This was a standalone single. This was also not on the second album. So, single only action here. I Want to Be Adored. I don't know if these are out of order or not. I know I Want to Be Adored came out before One Love. I probably need to rearrange these to some degree. Get some B-side, Where Angels Play, Sally Cinnamon, the Hacienda version. And I think the B-side distribution is a little bit different on this box set. I don't know, maybe someone can confirm that. I think some of these B-sides were slightly different maybe on the original issues. I don't remember. Maybe I'm just pulling that out of my ass and I don't know what I'm talking about. Waterfall. This was released well after, I think maybe a year or even two after the album came out. And I think this has got a Paul Oakenfold remix. Yeah. And then Adrian Sherwood does a remix of One Love here. So you get some remixes here. In fact, is this one of the... Yeah, this is one of them that has a print with it. Those other ones don't have prints with them. But these next couple do. Yeah, it's a weird thing about the box set. Not all of them had a print. Some of them did. But this was new at the time. I think this single was just getting released along with I Am the Resurrection when this box set came out. At any rate, you get some remixes of Waterfall and One Love here. Then the last 12-inch in the box set, I Am the Resurrection. How brilliant is this song? I will say the remixes are shit. It's not really a song you remix. I mean, they tried, but they failed, in my opinion. These remixes are... In fact, there's only one remix, I think. Yeah, extended 16:9 ratio club mix. I don't know. They put a bass line over it, basically, but I don't know. It's not really a song you remix, and it's a pretty shoddy remix at that. A guy called Gerald steps in and remixes Fool's Gold, which is much better. It's Gerald. I mean, Gerald didn't really put out bad music. I can't say I love Gerald's remix of Fool's Gold either, but it's pretty good. How do you make Fool's Gold better? How do you make I Am the Resurrection better? You don't. It's impossible. But those are the singles you get crammed into this box set. And then the most important piece, you get this. Silver letters this time. Now, again, if you want this album on vinyl, this is the version you need to get, period. I speak from experience. I've listened to all these different versions. I've listened to other reissues. This is the definitive version, I think. 2 records pressed at 45 RPM makes a huge difference. And this record has never sounded more glorious than it does on this silver letter edition. Now, I don't know if they've reissued this again on silver lettering with a single record. I have no idea. All I can tell you is in 1992, I want to say, they reissued this with silver letters on 2 records pressed at 45 RPM. You want that. They numbered it. This is my number. It came in a gatefold sleeve. I'll show that. Nice little gatefold. Get the back cover. The 2 inner sleeves are generic, and it just has the silver tone labels. I'm not going to show those. But listen, we all love this album, right? This needs to be heard in the right environment on the right format, I think, and this is absolutely worth having. And again, I think they issued this at the time outside of the box set, so you don't need to buy the box set to find this. I'm pretty sure. But as important as this album is, I think you owe it to yourself to go find this version because it's glorious, man. I've recorded this. It's in my digital archives, and this is the version I listen to. This one right here. It sounds amazing. Fantastic stuff. Stone Roses, the first album. What else do you need to say? Just saying those words gives me chills. And now I need to go listen to this for the 1 millionth time. It just never gets old. Stone Roses, thank you for bringing this into our world. Thank you to my viewers for watching my 200th video. I wanted to make my 200th video a special release. This album is beyond special. And you guys are special for putting up with me for 4 years and watching my videos. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Stone Roses, for your brilliance. And I'll talk to you next time. Goodbye.